Welcome to the Passive House podcast, brought to you by Passive House Accelerator, a catalyst for zero carbon building. For news, inspiration, and connections from all flavours of Passive House, check out passivehouseaccelerator.com. Sign up to receive regular updates about events, get your questions answered, and contribute to the community dialogue. There's loads of free information for experienced professionals and people just starting out on their Passive House journey. We hope to see you at one of our weekly Passive House Accelerator live webinars. In the meantime, here's this week's Passive House podcast. Welcome back to the Passive House podcast. I'm Matthew Cuttler-Welsh, coming to you back in Auckland, New Zealand.
And I'm Zach Semke, coming to you back in Seattle, Washington. How was your long travel?
When this comes out, we will have been back for a little while, but as the time of recording, we're back a few days from Wiesbaden, and my travel was good. I did just the way my flights worked out, I ended up doing a trip around the world in 7 days, which somebody did ask me how many passive houses that would take to
offset
the carbon. But someone also informed me that probably not very many, actually, which I was also pleased to hear, because by doing clever building, you can actually save quite a lot of carbon. And I like to think that the connections we made there and just being part of it and accelerating what is going on there is well worth it. So I was very fortunate. I felt very lucky to be there, and I would really like to thank the people that got us there, including Icon, Inotech, Intelligent Membranes, ProClimate, all helped the Passive House Accelerator crew get to the conference.
Minotaur as well joined us.
Minotaur, yes, and then we also had a bit of a, what was it called? An evening activity?
Evening. There was the evening event, also known as the conference party at the conference, which was so fun, and that was made possible by support from Enersign and Rothablas. So and we shared the stage with folks from Enersign and Rothablas as well as we were kicking off the party. So they got to do a toast to everybody to get things moving. Yeah.
It was great to see those all the people from those brands, those products there. So it wasn't just kind of financial support, which is appreciate, but it was also just getting to know them a bit more, seeing some of their cool stuff on display, and seeing others. So people like from the delegates of their conference go and talk to them and find out about their products and what they've got going on. There is some pretty cool stuff across the board in that trade expo, which is very good.
We should share a link to the Instagram live, a recording of the Instagram live that Michael Inqui, the founder of Passive House Accelerator, did.
Because he did a little walk around the expo area, so which is great for the people that didn't want to travel halfway around the world.
Yeah, right.
To go and see what was on display and catch up with meet some of the people involved with those brands as well. So it's very cool. And of course, there were lots of great presentations and sessions during the conference. I actually got to go to one of the workshops prior to the conference, which was there was a whole theme around retrofits. So the Passive House Institute has the Enefit standard, and also a newish program called Outfit, which is definitely worth checking out. And there's a lot of that kicking off around Europe, figuring out how to do retrofits to the Enefit standard, and using prefabrication and sort of methods to ramp that up, recognizing that we need to figure out solutions for improving all of the existing buildings. So that was really cool. And I do want to just do I guess one of the highlights for me, which we're going to talk about these because we do have a bunch of special episodes you'll see coming in the feed we've got some bonus episodes, lots of interviews. Mary and Ilka were super busy talking to some of the presenters, and a couple of those have appeared on the feed already, and there are a lot more to come. One of the definite highlights for the speakers for me was Andrew Arafuzman from the University of Toronto, Scarborough, and he talked about a project that was a student accommodation on the campus. But the thing that really struck me about his presentation, I think a lot of people got quite inspired about it, was that he made the whole journey, which took about 10 years in the making and had some major hurdles, one of which was COVID. But he saw their project and as just being the starting point of a much bigger movement of passive house in the region. And he saw it, their role in that project wasn't just to provide accommodation for some students, but it also has had this massive ripple effect on the whole industry. Everyone who's been part of that project, from the financiers to the designers, the local policymakers, right through to the builders, have gained this understanding of what passive house is and are very unlikely to forget that and are going to be wanting to do more of the same. And I think that's a really powerful message, that any building like that is going to have benefits for the people who use that building, but it's going to, the downstream benefits are going to be so much broader, because everyone who's involved in the project is going to want to do something like that again. So hopefully, I'm going to reach out to Andrew, see if we can get him on the show, and some other people that are involved in that and other projects. So yeah, lots more to talk about. Any other particular highlights that you want to quickly mention, Zach?
Oh, sure. I before the conference, I visited Heidelberg and with Mary and Ilka, and also with Skylar Swinford a day later, and we were staying in the Bonstadt district of Heidelberg, which is all passive house. It's an entire new section of the city that is passive house. So 6,000 people live in this section of town. Another 6,000 go to work in this section of town. So, and every single building is passive house. So it's really kind of blew me away to see that. And we got some great footage, I hope, of that visit, of that tour. I know that we got some really fun drone footage that Skylar brought his drone, his little legally small drone to be able to fly around in the airspace there. Cool, and yes. so we got great, but there's like a firehouse, elementary school, laboratory, offices, retail, hotel, movie theater, big box retail for furniture store. I mean, it was just like, everything's just like, it's just totally normal.
And lots of accommodate, lots of apartments and
lots of apartments, right? Lots of apartments, definitely. So that was really
but
cool.
Every single building's passive house.
Right. It's all through. It's interesting. This is because of the volume of the kind of work that's going on there. It's being run through the city of Heidelberg as opposed to doing formal certification through PHI. So it's absolutely PHI. It's the PHI certification. It's using PHPP, but there's a small office of maybe not that small at the city that is reviewing plans, reviewing PHPP and models, approving developments, and all of that. So it's just a kind of glimpse into what how people solve for true scale, like when it really scales up. How do you make it happen? And they're doing it. And it's just completely normal. It's not crazy. It's just completely normal. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got an interview to do this week, which I actually conducted on a bus on the way back from some site tours the day after the conference, when we're heading back to Wiesbaden. But before we get into that, we got some people to thank.
Yes, indeed. So a big thank you to our founding sponsors, 475 High Performance Building Supply, Baxt Ingwe Architects, Glavel foam glass gravel, Minitair all-in-one HVAC and dehumidification units, Mitsubishi Electric Train HVAC US, Partel, Rockwell North America, Stocorp, and Zola Windows. A big thank you also to our champion sponsors, Icon Windows and Doors, Intelligent Membranes, Proseco, and Source 2050. And a big thank you to our stakeholder partner, NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority.
One of the things that I was really intrigued and quite stoked about while visiting the conference in Wiesbaden was a number of Australians that I bumped into and met.
There was a big contingent.
Yeah, there were, which is great. And a lot of them were builders as well, which is really awesome too. So because they're the people that do the hard work. And one of those builders was Nick Sowden, who is a master builder. He's a green living builder and also a certified passive house tradesperson. This was his first passive house conference, but he has been involved in doing some pretty amazing projects in Sydney's inner west and around that part of New South Wales and Australia. So it was great. Interacting with people like Nick and Nick specifically, getting his impressions of passive house in Germany and seeing, getting his reaction to the conference and everything that was going on there, but also following the 2 days of presentations and talks, there were the site tours, and I was lucky enough to be on a site tour around some residential housing and another very interesting building in Darmstadt, which is kind of the passive house mecca,
right,
where it all started. We were about 300 meters away from Wolfgang's house at one stage. So that was really cool. So this is fresh off the back of that, and I caught up with Nick on the way back. So we were a bit tired, three big days of conference and then site tours, but I thought it was a great opportunity to find out about Nick's impressions of the conference.
Tell us who you are first.
Nick Sowden from Sowden Building Solutions, working out of Sydney.
Okay, so you're based in Sydney, and was this your first passive house conference?
That's correct.
But first in total or first international one?
First one full stop.
Right, so you haven't been to South Pacific?
Haven't been to the South Pacific one yet.
But you did passive house tradesperson training in
that's correct, 2019 in Melbourne.
Right. And since then you've done a couple of passive house?
So very excitedly, we got our first Enefit certified last Friday, which is for a retrofit in Annandale in Sydney.
Had you done a new build before then, or did you jump in? Wow, so your first passive house project was an Enefit?
Yeah, correct.
Like a challenge?
Love a challenge. The second one was my own personal house.
Yeah.
Which we are finishing right now.
Right.
But moved into that 2 Saturdays ago.
So we've just been 2 days in a conference, Wiesbaden, and now on a tour in where it all started in Darmstadt. What are some big takeaways from you?
Big takeaways is that energy efficiency, you can change your air tightness to get more efficiencies in other places. There's a lot of very smart people working in the passive house realm.
Yep.
So there's a lot to learn from the people that we've been meeting.
Yeah.
It'd be great to have some more products in Australia to play with.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's always pretty overwhelming, I think. I mean, this was a pretty small trade show as well. I've seen others that are massive compared to stuff that's here. But also we've seen stuff installed in some of the projects we've seen today. What do you think's lacking in Australia? What would you like to see most?
One of the projects in Barcelona, it was a all-in-one dehum heating, cooling, heat recovery.
Single unit.
A single unit.
That does all your ventilation.
And your heating and your cooling.
Yeah, so nothing like that you know of
in Australia? No, not yet.
Right. Separately from a ventilation with heating added to it, as opposed to like just an one box that does everything.
And one set of ducts.
Yeah.
Which would make things very easy. Yeah.
And so you were talking about ducts. You were asking about the ductwork today in some houses. Is that quite different from what you've worked on or what you've installed?
So the way we've been taught in Australia is to use distribution boxes.
Yeah.
And then run individual lines from the distribution box to each point.
Yeah.
Today was more in line.
Yeah.
So bigger trunking coming through, but with sound baffles.
Yeah.
In line.
Yeah.
Between each room, so you didn't get the sound going through.
Yeah. Any other big learnings from the conference or from the tour today?
Tour today is much bigger housing because we've been in how many apartment blocks? 3 apartment blocks, a church, and and a storage facility for artwork.
Yeah,
that was a heat recovery system.
that plant room was something else.
Yeah,
that was pretty incredible.
But even the plant rooms in the apartments, like there is a lot going on. Even the plant room, which looked after three apartments.
Yeah.
It's a lot of storage. It's very heat focused in Germany as well because it is extremely cold here at the moment.
That being said, the heating part of those plant rooms was pretty small because it was mostly about air movement.
The air movement, but the big tanks that they have there as well.
Yeah, and I guess the space is taken up by the tanks, and a key difference there, of course, is the district heating.
Yeah.
So that's using that tank is basically a big thermal battery from heat that's coming from somewhere else, and then feeding into some sort of heat exchange loop.
Which is something that I've never heard
probably
of
not
in
going to
Australia.
have. Probably not going to have that in Sydney. Yeah, but I think that focus on ventilation is something that we can step up in Australia and New Zealand.
Which needs to be stepped up in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, definitely.
Because as we were just discussing, like most of the buildings that I've tested prior to renovating them, we can't get an accurate reading at 50 pascals.
Yeah.
Everything's blowing over 20 air changes.
Yeah.
Now, which in layman's terms means every 3 minutes you've got to recondition all that air in that house, which is a huge energy demand.
Yeah.
And that could be for heating or cooling.
Yeah. Now, you also mentioned that you're training your team. How big is your team?
I've got a team of 5.
And have they done passive house training as well?
No one's done passive house training, apart from myself.
Yeah. But they, I imagine, are benefiting from some of your knowledge, by virtue of working on a passive house project, that you'd have to be teaching them.
Yeah, and all the tradies as well. So your sparkies, your plumbers, like anyone that's...
Have any of them worked on an airtight building before?
Only ones which I've built.
Right.
The air conditioning guys have worked on some other passive houses.
Right.
So they're aware of it.
Installers.
Yeah, and they go across more sites.
But your electricians and plumbers?
Only my sites.
Right. So how does that... what do you have to do there?
Just got to explain to them that this is an airtight building, and they get it.
Yeah.
Like my Sparky put a hole in the membrane the other day.
Right.
And he's like, Nick, I've just put a hole in the membrane. I'm like, mate, no worries. You've let me know. That's exactly what I've asked.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you doing airtightness testing at multiple stages?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So big stuff up before
you put your linings on.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be some things that you'll be looking at doing differently or changing or investigating more for next projects that you do in Australia after being here?
After being here, it would be great to be doing external insulation rather than internal insulation.
Yeah.
one of the details that Scott from Lab Designs came up with recently.
Yeah.
He's just done internal in the front of a heritage building and then moved to outside. So you've got a big overlap where you've got your internal and external.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
was that a requirement or just a 1 or 2 for the heritage?
Conservation zone. So
okay.
you can't change the facade.
Right, so that was a solution to keep the look while still getting the
and making it easy to put the insulation in from the outside and not changing the fabric inside as much.
But only doing that on the front where they had to?
Yeah.
Right. And are there options available? Like, do you know how you would implement that external insulation right now if you had to in Australia?
I'd probably still use wood fibre board rather than EPS.
Yeah.
It's a product that I'm very familiar with.
Right.
I'm very happy to use.
And then clad over the top of that?
Or render it.
Oh, yeah.
Or a line-based render.
Yep. Yep. Cool. Anything else?
Love to do a passive house out of Hempcrete.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which would be very exciting.
Yeah. Well, is there any reason you couldn't? I mean,
I just haven't had the opportunity yet.
But material-wise, it's... it's low carbon.
Yeah.
It's all good.
We've done a lot of hempcrete building in Sydney.
Yeah.
So we've been quite fortunate there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But haven't had the client or the project to actually do a certified passive house. The guys down at Sanctum Homes in Melbourne have just done one.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And you asked me before about builders who have done training. What can we do you think, to get more tradespeople and builders trained up? Seems to be...
needs to be more awareness.
Right.
Some training in through TAFE would be great.
Yep.
If that could get injected or through the Master Builders course or the HIA course.
Because did any of your team know about airtightness or heard of passive house before they came and worked for you?
They'd all heard of it.
Oh, yeah?
Well, 2 of my carpenters had heard of it.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why they came to me.
Right. Yeah, you attracted them.
Yeah.
But I hadn't worked on a project before.
No.
But I can imagine someone going through TAFE or any sort of training wouldn't necessarily... Well, would they learn anything about airtightness now that it's at least mentioned in
I'm no pro-climber, so Airboss Dan's been getting out there and trying to get pro-climber products shown, how to install them.
Yep.
I think that's in the carpentry course.
Right.
Which is brilliant because... Well, we've had a change in the NCC, so you can only use class 4 membranes and not foil sarkings, finally.
Yeah.
But learning how to put them on properly is the next step, and how to tape them correctly.
Yeah. And what about windows? Do you feel like there's a good range of windows available now in Australia? I mean, we've seen some amazing doors here today.
We've seen some lovely doors and windows.
I don't think I've seen anything that's not triple glazed today.
No.
But is there a decent range now in your part of the world?
It's getting better. It's getting better.
At a reasonable price?
Yeah. So my house, I used Kinzel.
Yep.
Well priced, manufactured in Australia from International Profiles.
Yeah.
A big advantage for me is there's a really tight access site.
Right.
So I would have to deglaze any windows that came from overseas. So I could actually physically carry things into the building.
Oh, really?
So I get most of my windows unglazed.
Oh, wow.
And then put them in and they get site glazed just purely because of weight, and we don't have options of...
So you're getting joinery and frames...
The window joinery,
brought in. So are you doing tilt and turn?
Yep.
And then installed with is that a local glazing unit that's being installed?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I was going to ask you something else as well. And so you mentioned about doing ventilated roofs. I presume you've been influenced by Jesse a little bit.
Have been, and also when I did my trade course, Passive House trade course, we were taught then about counter battering and
so
then putting your roof battens. And
when you can't, because you're the builder, is that in the design? Like, is that the roof that's been designed, or are you talking to the designer to say this is the type of roof I want to build?
I'm talking to the designer and saying this is how we're going to build it.
Right. So
because we need to ventilate it.
Right. So you're involved in that design process. You're not just picking up a tender for a job that's already been.
Yeah, I've been quite fortunate to have early contractor involvement.
Yeah.
In quite a few projects.
Right. And is that designer? Are they a Passive House designer as well?
So Tracy Graham, who I do a lot of work with, hasn't done a training yet.
Right.
But she's designed my own house.
Right. Right.
So she's had a learning curve there.
She's getting training from you.
And also we've been working with Andy Marlowe.
Yeah.
So he was our consultant on our project.
Yeah.
The previous project, the one which got certified recently.
Yeah.
The designer, Karen, she is a certified Passive House designer.
Yeah.
And she had Scott from Lab Designs doing the PHTP.
Yeah.
So it was a really good learning curve for myself as well.
How have you found doing that? Because is that fairly recent for you, doing batten, counter batten roofs?
Since 4 years ago.
And what were you doing previously to that?
I was membraning and battening like a normal Aussie builder would, or doing a lot of sit panels.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've done a lot of sit panels over the last 5-6 years.
So, do you remember hearing about that ventilated roof cavity system the first time and what you thought about it?
On the training course, and it just made sense.
Yeah. So no hesitation to switch to doing that. Yeah. And how do you find actually building it? Doing the build up on site?
Yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah.
Keeps your membranes where you want them.
Nice. And what about...
we're also plying our roofs as well.
Okay.
Or OSBing our roofs.
Yeah, yeah. And are you doing eaves as part of the roof, or do you add on?
It depends on the house.
Right.
And the design.
Right, okay. So you don't particularly have an issue either way?
Don't have an issue either way, no.
Yeah.
Just changes how you flush it and vent it. And
yeah, yeah. And I think has ProClimate got all the details for prevent any fire risk stuff? Do you have to be cautious of embers or anything like that in the
I don't work in bushfire zones.
So you don't have to worry about any of that?
You've got to worry about 60-60-60.
Right.
And you've got to be rated up until your roof batten.
Yeah.
Not your counter batten, so you got to take that into account.
Right. All right. Okay. Very good. What was your final load-all result?
0.9 at Annandale.
That's your inner fit one?
My house, we still need to do the final.
Right. So your first inner fit was 0.9?
0.9.
You happy with that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
A very big old brick building. It's amazing where air comes through.
Was that brick? Was it double brick?
Double brick, no cavity.
Right.
But when
did they have all the air vents in the?
We bricked all them up.
Right.
But even when we had under-rendered brickwork on internal walls, we were pulling air through there when we did one of our initial blower door tests.
Right.
And if I had any hair, I'd be like a hairdryer.
So what did you use? How did you get it airtight?
Render. So render was our airtight layer.
On the outside?
On the inside.
Oh, so you rendered the inside?
Yeah. Because we had wood fibre on the inside of the build.
Oh, right.
Yep. And then we rendered or plastered that.
Yep.
With a lime-based plaster, so it's still vapor permeable.
Did you do that yourself, or was it a specialist applicator?
No, we did it ourselves.
Oh, nice. Good. Oh, that's a good result.
We're very happy with that. And we got 0.98 on my house on the initial blower door test.
Yeah.
Still with a fair bit of work to
go.
Good so we knew some things were going to come through.
Yeah.
So we're confident.
Oh, good.
Very confident.
Well, I hope you you take some of the inspiration and do some more
and keep pushing on.
Good work from here. Maybe we'll see you in Sydney
in May.
In May.
Yep.
And I don't know, wherever the next one of the, are you going to come back to another international piece of
I would like to come back to another international one because there was a lot to learn.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic.
And that was Nick Sowden of Sowden Building Solutions from Sydney. And we were chatting on our way back to Wiesbaden from Darmstadt, having visited a bunch of really cool passive house residential properties and some other buildings on the site tours. I'm not sure if you got the chance to meet up with Nick during the conference at all, Zach.
I'm not sure I did. I did meet a couple of Australians at the party, so maybe so.
Maybe
a little of that was a blur.
Yeah. Anyway, I just, as I said at the top, I really liked chatting to some of those guys and getting their impressions. For some of them, it was their first passive house conference like that. So yeah, it was really cool for them to see just how advanced some things are, and I think it also helps them realize that what they're doing back home in Australia and wherever people are coming from is not crazy, because sometimes it can be seen that way by people in that region. So why are you putting so much insulation in, or why are you putting the windows in line, set back from the like you are. And so you go from being the odd one out to having kind of things confirmed that no, you're actually on the right track, and those methods are proven.
Yeah, it's a shot in the arm to sort of get some more inspiration and energy and resolve, probably, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for all these first actors, early actors, and folks on sometimes the bleeding edge of change in the built environment. It was cool to hear that his first foray into this also was, he was not afraid to just jump in with both feet on an retrofit project, and that they've achieved a 0.9 ACH50 for their blower door test, which is quite good. The target is 1.0. And you never know what you're getting into with when you're dealing with an existing building. So well done on that.
Nick was showing me some of the photos of projects that he's worked on recently, and they're challenging. Yeah, there are some houses that are over 100 years old in that part of Sydney. Small but quite expensive real estate with some heritage overlays, and there are some great examples where the front of the building has been kept with that original appearance, but then it's very modern out the back. But you, as a builder, you're not necessarily the first person who's had a crack at it, so you're sort of dealing with a whole bunch of attempts at renovations, nothing straight. There's all sorts of challenges from an architectural point of view, but also from a structural and a technical point of view. And the end result is quite staggering. Some of the images that he showed me, some of those projects. So very, very cool to have that sort of level of craft. Obviously, really proud of the work he does, which I really like seeing that in builders like Nick, and then to have passive house on top of all that is incredible. So really cool stuff, and doing that hardest and most important work, which is upgrading the existing housing stock and figuring out how to do that. I think is really, really important work.
Definitely. I also was glad to hear of another builder who gets to be part of the design process and guide assemblies. My as I've said probably more times than people want to hear, my introduction to this was through a builder, through Hammer and Hand, and Hammer and Hand was so involved in helping with consulting on and kind of sometimes driving the design of the wall assembly that we put together a kind of a museum display of 5 different wall assemblies that we brought to AIA, and Hammer and Hand created a best practices manual based on the learnings in part from the Passive House practice. But I guess the point is that when you have a builder who is so engaged and knowledgeable at Passive House, involved in a Passive House project, it's smart to draw upon their what their learnings have been in the design process, and so it's cool to see more examples of that kind of collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to get. I mean, we talk about that always, of trying to get the team together as early as possible, but it doesn't always happen that way. So when it does, it's definitely good to hear. Awesome. All right. Well, we've got a bunch more interviews from Wiesbaden, which is very, very great. We've got some bonus episodes coming through. You'll see those in the feed, but we've also got some more feature interviews that we did while we were there, and we'll bring you those over the next few weeks. Meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on.
March
other great events.
March is intense. I also want to give a shout out to the Artisans Group for being our accelerator partner this week. And if you're curious about what an accelerator partner is, reach out to info@passivehouseaccelerator.com. But their Artisans Group is a supporter of Passive House Accelerator, and so they're kind of sponsoring what we're producing for a week, which is pretty cool. So this week is huge. On Tuesday, we are producing the online segment of the award ceremony for the Buildings of Excellence Round 3 award winners. This is a NYSERDA program and NYSERDA event. It'll be at AIA New York City. So we'll be there. I'll be in New York, and we'll have a crew there capturing that award ceremony and broadcasting it live on Zoom. So please sign up and check out these amazing new projects that will be unveiled on Tuesday morning. And then later Tuesday, where FIAS has its retrofit summit. So its retrofit summit is on Tuesday and Thursday. And then we are sandwiching in partnership with FIAS a Passive House Accelerator retrofit event at 5 p.m. Eastern on that Wednesday. Sorry if this is all confusing, but FIAS is Tuesday, Thursday. Passive House plus Accelerator plus FIAS is on Wednesday evening, and that's going to be industrialized retrofits. That's our event. So we'll have links in show notes for all this. Of course, earlier on Wednesday, we have our Passive House Accelerator Live. It's a construction tech edition of the show, since this is the 4th Wednesday of the month. And that's going to be with Chris Hill, and he's going to be presenting offsite construction methods using prefabricated panels. So oodles and oodles of things to take in around Passive House next week, as well as produced by others. So we'll have a link to our newsletter so you can see everything that's happening. Yeah. Super cool.
Definitely get that newsletter. So put all those in the calendar.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you for that, Zach.
Great interview. Thank you.
We'll be back again next week. Thank you to all those supporters who helped get us to the conference, and we've got some great content there. Look forward to bringing those episodes in the next few weeks. Until then, we'll be back next week, but we will also check out those bonus episodes in the feed that'll be coming up, as well as a couple of component spotlights as well. So talk to you next week.
Sounds good.